Hey everyone, this is Judi with JLBCrafts. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, thank you so much for giving me a try. In this video, I'm going to be setting up and planning the very last week in my 2021 Big Love Letters Planner. So if you are a beginner and you're wanting to start fresh with 2022, you want the other video that's posting on this particular day. It would be Sunday the 28th. I usually post these the day before the week starts. So this is the end of 2021, and we're gonna do some numbers. And you guys, we've got, you don't have to do them on the day. I just wanted to fill this out with something. So we're definitely going to talk a bit about bounce lettering. Congratulations if you've made it this far. We're going to talk about numbers. So there may be a little bit less fast forwarding in this video because I'm going to be talking a lot. So anyway, even though there's orange on this page, I wanted to do like a wintry color. So I've got Kell Plan ROYGBIV Volume 2, because I wanted to end the year on my favorite colors, which is blue and green. And oh my gosh, you guys, this blue set, this like light blue set is so gorgeous. And look, it's got pine cones and holly, so it just screams winter to me. So I am gonna go ahead, I will speed this part up. I am gonna go ahead and probably use up these smaller clusters to go down the center. Oh, and I pulled this Simply Gilded washi. This is last year's snow. I don't know what the name of it was, but it's got tiny little snowflakes, and I just thought that the, see the little snowflake right there? I just thought this light blue would look nice with these stickers. So I'm gonna get started. So then I'm gonna come, this book is one of the books of hers that also has bullet points. So let's go ahead and grab, I'm just gonna go back and forth with these. Not that I really need them this week, since we're just kind of going by the seat of our pants, as they say, but we'll stick them on there. So let's see here, what did I write for each day? We'll do a number each set of lines. So let's go 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. And then we'll go 5, 6, 7, and 8 there. We'll go 9, 0, and then a couple punctuations. I want to definitely do the question mark and the ampersand. And honestly, that's about it. So then we can do, I want to talk about, well, we could do, so I've got some more punctuation marks here, a couple different ampersands you can play with. You know what, I'm not even going to write anything else in for the rest of it. So we're just going to go, I'm just going to write bounce, because I didn't know what this was going to look like. So there we go. I'm going to pick some pens, probably different shades of blue, and I'll be back. Okay guys, so the pens I went with are the gray Tombow Fudenosuke, and then a bunch of different blues. This like really cool, like almost periwinkle blue on the Pentel Touch, The Calligraphy, it says it is sky blue. It's almost like a brownish blue, you'll see. And then the Writech in a cool blue color. So I'm going to start as usual with warming up. Always warm up, you guys, no matter what you're doing. So first the Tombow Fudenosuke. Okay, next we have the Pentel Touch. I think this was in the second set of Pentels that came out, not the initial set. Okay, and now we'll use the Calligraphy on the fine end to start. Okay, and then I'm going to do a double high one with the fat end. I never leave myself enough room for that. And then last but not least, we'll use the Writech. Okay, let's look at, so in case you were wondering, our assignment for this week is finally, for the very first time, to write our first word. Could you imagine? Oh my gosh, no. Okay, so let's look at some numbers, you guys. I have my fave, the Calligraphy Made Easy that I got from Walmart, and it's got numbers here in the back. Pretty straightforward. And you guys, before I get any further, all the same rules apply, right? So light up, heavy down, light across. So if you look at the number 1, light up, heavy down, light across. Same thing with the number 2, light up, heavy down, light across. Whether you make it straight or kind of swirly like they are, it's all the same thing, you guys. It's the same rules. So there's nothing groundbreaking or stressful here. Here's another book I found, heavy down, light up, and they're leaving it a little open at the top. Here they're making these tails a lot longer, but I mean, it's all the same thing, right? Light up, heavy down. Okay, here's the Crayola Calligraphy, the one with the black cover, the faux calligraphy one. So there's stylistically some differences. They're not putting the crossbar underneath. They're putting a little bit of a curve in the upstroke on the beginning of the 1. In this case, they're doing a loop at the bottom of the 2. On this particular 3, they're kind of making it flat on top. So straight, a little bit of a curve rather than like a backwards C, like this one. See the difference between the 2? So the 4, you can get into a little loopy thing, or you can just come down and across, or you can make it a triangle at the top. Like this one. See, this 4 has a triangle at top. So, you know, practice your numbers the way you want your numbers to be, right? So for my 1s, I think I want to do the full light up, heavy down, light across, right? I don't need it to be super long because I feel like the more you put on there, the less it starts to look like a 1, you know? And you can also practice, like if it's a small number, we can do curvy. Whatever you do, be consistent, right? Don't put one of these right next to one of these. Consistency is key. Okay, and now for 2, I don't do the curly Q, so think picking up where to start. So if this is our midline, I start about 3/4 of the way up. So that's a pretty flat bottom. You can get much more curvy. We're not trying to connect to anything here, so it doesn't need to be that long. Right, so if I'm going to try to do 2022, I want to be more consistent than I have been on these 2s, right? Because you got 3 2s all next to each other. So inconsistencies, oh, and that's not, that's an O, not a 2 or 0, but just take your time and be consistent. I also think that these are spaced out a little too far. We're not connecting them, but they shouldn't be too far apart. Okay, so for 3s, when I'm just writing my 3s, I do a curved top to my 3. So I think I'm going to keep with that. Although, yeah, I don't really like how sharp that is. I also prefer for my bottom half of my 3 to be larger than my top half of my 3. Just little things for you guys to be thinking about as you further develop the last bits here of your style. So again, anything up or across is light, anything down is more pressure, is heavy. Let's try the fat end of this pen. Yeah, see, it's too fat for these lines. The 2 lines aren't wide enough. And again, my spacing is pretty far apart because this is a practice line, but all right, so do we do an open topped 4 or a closed topped 4? Let's decide. Heavy down, light across, heavy down. And I think I want to come a little bit further out. So if you're gonna do a closed topped 4 like this one, they're still doing 3 separate strokes, okay? So you've got your diagonal stroke heavy down, your light stroke across, and then your heavy stroke down again. So you'd go heavy down, light across, heavy down. I just like that. I like it a little more open, I think. And so if I were going to write the number 44, I would keep them much closer together. It's also something to play with how much curl you put in that. There, one's kind of halfway in between. So for the 5, when I write my 5, just write it with my normal handwriting. I come down and around, and then I lift my pen like I'm crossing the T, and I come across. They're actually doing it all as one stroke, and I know a lot of people do write their 5s naturally like that. So whatever works for you. For me, it's hard for me to push a brush pen. It feels like against the grain, so I'm probably gonna write mine more stylistically like I would normally. Here you can see they're getting quite curly on this one. You can be as curly as you want. They're putting a little bit of a curve up there. Same thing with that, so. Heavy down, light up, heavy around, and then light across. I like it. I mean, as long as you're doing your light up and your heavy down, you're gonna get the stroke changing widths, and it's gonna look fancier. You can do super curly. No surprise, I don't like that at all. So, not very consistent. I feel like this looks wide, very wide open, so I might come up a little higher with the belly there of the bottom part. Yeah, that looks a little better to me. But see how just that subtle little change in spacing makes this look more like a bunch of 55s and not just a bunch of 5s. Okay, let's try 6. We won't do 666, we'll just do 66. Okay, so here they're coming a tiny little light up, big heavy down. This is interesting, they're going kind of heavy up and then light down. I'm not sure about that. That would be counterintuitive. Here we go, here's a light up, heavy down, and then they do get thinner as they come around. And then the calligraphy one, a single stroke again, heavy down, light up, and then they do get fatter here, heavy down. They're just doing more of a curly than I would probably do. Yeah. So light, fat, and the whole thing is kind of sits on a diagonal. So let's write 66 instead of just 6 and a 6. Now, the Calligraphy Made Easy, they're not doing this little light upstroke, so it would just be heavy down, light up, heavy down, and leaving it wide open. So immediately it just looks more frilly. I prefer this one. Definitely try grouping your letters, because I tell you what, it takes some practice to figure out where to start the second one. Did I say letters? I meant numbers. You guys know what I mean. So here's the 7. They're doing a curve light across, a heavy down, and then they are doing a thin crossbar, which I naturally write my 7 that way. This looks like an F to me, but they're doing a very curly, heavy down, light crossbar. The Calligraphy Made Easy, here they're doing a very sharp. They're going, it looks like they're probably starting light across, heavy down, and then a little bit of a down tail there, and a big cross. So I cross my 7s naturally when I'm just printing, so it's kind of second nature for me to cross it like a T. So just playing a little bit with my starting little entrance there. It's very similar to the capital Z, just without that finished bottom foot. All right, 8. Do you make your 8 in an actual figure 8, or do you do 2 circles? I think because I'm dyslexic, I learned to do mine as 2 separate circles, which takes forever, by the way. So this one is, obviously it's a figure 8, so light, heavy, light, and they're leaving it wide open here at the top. This one, so interesting difference there. This one, they're starting almost all the way down at midline. Light, heavy, light. See the difference? And wow, look how different this one is. Light, I'm sorry, they're going, let's see, heavy, light, and then ending with this really loopy. Don't like that at all. The 9's pretty boring, and the 0 looks more like a capital O. Here, I don't know how they're doing this one, you guys. I guess as 2 strokes. This one's definitely heavy down, light up, the 0. This is more like the way I just naturally write my 9. Light up, heavy down, light up, heavy down, right? Same thing with the 0, heavy down, light up. They're kind of bringing theirs around the top. So that's interesting. All right. 8. Let's try doing this as a figure 8. It's kind of like a big S, you guys. I don't like it. So my 8 looks more like that. So then to make it feel slanted, right, you'd have your bottom be slightly to the left and your top more to the right. Still round though. So light up, heavy down, light up, heavy down. So I think I don't like it coming up like that, like an A or a P or a Q. I actually like this a little bit better. Let's try 0s, which should be pretty easy. So leaving it open at the top, closing it. And then the Calligraphy Made Easy, they actually start in a little bit and bring the top around. That's kind of cool. I'm surprised I like that. Yeah, I think I like that. We are almost to New Year's, so might as well write 2022, right? Okay, question marks. I don't have very many examples of punctuation, but again, actually this is the only one I have. Again, just follow your rules. Light up, heavy down, and a dot, right? So as long as you're following what we've spent a year learning, our muscle memory, right? Light up, heavy down, and a dot. And just how big of a crook do you do? And here, again, so a number sign, heavy, heavy, light, light. I mean, just follow your rules. Heavy, heavy, light, light. And then figure out what you want your spacing to be. That's pretty big. Heavy, heavy, light, light. For your at sign, you're just gonna make an A, and then circle it. Light, heavy, right? So here's my A. Light, heavy. Not that we're gonna have to make these very often, but maybe you're gonna try making your own wedding invitations or something like that, or writing appointments in your planner at this time, right? I mean, exclamation points, those are gonna be easy. Heavy down, dot. Heavy down, dot. Okay? Lots of different ways to do ands. I've never liked this one. I feel like it looks more like it would be at home on a musical score, which I was in band. Light up, heavy down, and a tail. Ugh. Light up, heavy down. I just don't like that one. Okay, this one looks kind of like an E. Don't like that one. Usually when I do mine, I do this. But I do a full line down the middle. So I don't know, you guys. Maybe we just write out the word and. We're just playing. Let's get to the good stuff, eh? Shall we start with bounce lettering? Okay. So, oops, and I used the wrong pen. I probably will write and out in a quote because I really don't care for any of those. But anyway, okay, so let's get to bounce lettering. So, bounce lettering. The good news is it's pretty straightforward. There aren't a lot of rules. The bad news is, since there aren't a lot of rules, since it's kind of loosey-goosey, there are a lot of different ways you can combine the bounces. Okay, so first let's talk about all the year we've been playing with a double set of lines like you'd use when you're learning to write in elementary school. And I've been calling this the baseline, this the middle line, and not really talking about the top line. So I'm going to link this free download. The YouTuber on this, she's got a great video. It's about 20-ish minutes long. She's the happyevercrafter.com. This is a free download, these 3 pages. And I watched her video. I watched a couple other videos before I decided to make this one. But you know, like I said, it's pretty straightforward. We've been talking all along. The vocabulary is pretty similar. We've got ascenders, so like your D and your L, and we've got descenders, so like the bottom part of the G. And everything sits on, like I've talked about, the baseline, the midline, and I guess you'd call this the top line. We haven't really talked about how far down the descender goes, but we've always just kind of, at least I've always shown you, and the book shows you that the descender comes down to the midline of the set of lines below, right? So if we were to, the example she uses is minimum. And minimum is a great word because the core of all the letters takes up one of our set of lines. So if we go ahead and just write out, like normal, the word minimum. So all of these letters, just like with ACE, they're gonna fit in this bottom half of our first set of double rows. So if we go heavy down, light up, heavy down, minimum. I almost dot my U. Okay, so the core of the word, this is just normal writing. Everything is between the baseline and the midline. All bouncing is, all it is coming slightly below the baseline or slightly above the midline. Now, all our other rules still apply. Light ups, heavy downs, our line spacing left to right, our letter spacing left to right. All we're gonna do is pick some places to go slightly below the baseline or slightly above the midline. You don't want to do every single one, otherwise it takes the uniqueness and the style and the flair out of it. It just looks like really fat writing, right? So that's where you kind of need to practice and get a feel for it. How often do I bounce, right? So in this example, she's bounced down below the baseline at the end of the first M, at the end of the N, at the end of the M, the U, and the M. So that's a lot to me. I wouldn't have done probably this one. Every 2 or 3 letters, but you see she didn't do the I's, right? And she hasn't done any above the waistline yet. So that would be the next step to add even more bounce, to add even more flair, is here you can see she went above on the second half of the M, below on the end of the M, above on the N, below on the end. Here she went above on the first half of the M. See, this one she went above on the second half. This one she went above on the first half. Below, below, and then again she went, this time she went second, first, second. She keeps changing it up. Okay, so that's the key to figure out, you guys. How often do I bounce? Okay, so let's just start with a little bit of bouncing. Let's write minimum again, but let's bounce. I'm gonna bounce the way I would do it, which would be, I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, skip the U, and just do a 4th. Sorry, I'm off screen because I'm zoomed in all the way. Okay, I'm going to skip the bounce at the end of the U and just bounce on this one. Now, a couple other things. See how her bounces are all pretty even, right? She's not treating it like a descender and coming all the way down here like a G, right? She's not going all the way to the descender. She's coming about halfway down, right? So let's try it. Okay, so I'm going to come down below a little bit. My eye is going to be normal. I'm going to come down on the N. And see there, I didn't keep them even. Okay, I'm going to come down on the M. I'm going to leave the U alone. I'm going to come down at the end of the second M. No dot. So already my slant's kind of dying out a little bit. I had trouble keeping this even. They're kind of all over the place. But I do like a little bit less, right? So now if we look at what do we want to bounce in the up direction, let's do this one more time, see if I can clean it up a little bit. I'm not quite connecting those, but that looks a little bit bouncy. That's okay. All right, so now if we kind of do, I'm thinking, so she's got 4 up bounces, the M, the N, the M, the M. I'm afraid if I bounce on the first part of this first M, it's gonna start to look too much like a capital. But I'm not sure I wanna bounce up and down on basically the same stroke. So I think I'm gonna keep the M bounced like this. I'm gonna bounce up the N instead of down. I, leave it alone. Okay, so now I've got a down bounce and an up bounce. Let's go ahead and bounce this M down. Okay, my U, I left it alone. Now let's bounce this M up at the beginning, and I don't know, up at the beginning. Now, do I want one more bounce here at the end? I think I will. Minimum. I just feel like this is too many bounces for my eye. I look at that and I get just a tiny bit confused on what word I'm looking at. Maybe it's because I've stared at it for so long. But so you see how following the rules is, you know, knowing what bounce lettering is pretty straightforward. Figuring out how to make it look natural is something you got to play with. So if I were to try to bounce the word ace, just because that's how much room I have left here, A, C, E. So that starts to look like a Q. I don't think bouncing the A is a good idea. I don't think bouncing the C is a good idea, nor the E. So ace, I would say, is probably not a great word for bounce lettering. Not all words are good for that. Shall we try a word that has a couple of ascenders? So let's first write the word normal. Let's write schedule. Okay, so that's just written completely normally, keeping the core of my letters right where they're supposed to be. So if you've watched Heather Kell, her style is very bounce letter, and you can tell she's been doing it forever because she doesn't even have to think about it. She just does it. But I've always admired her lowercase s's and her lowercase r's, which there's no R here, but I think an S is kind of a fun letter. An S and an R are fun letters to consider bouncing on. So if I were to make this top part of my S just a little bit taller, it would be bounced. I've already decided on ace that the C isn't a good idea. Let's do the H, so I'd have one up and one down. There isn't really any need to bounce anything here during the second half of the word because the D and the L already go all the way up. They're already ascenders. But I could throw a bounce in. I could do the end of the U into the L, or I could skip that and do one here at the D and one here at the end of the L. So we could try both ways. Let's do, okay, so I'm gonna bounce up the S. Leave the C alone. I'm gonna bounce down at the end of the H. Leave the E alone. I'm going to leave the D alone. Okay, and then let's bounce down coming out of the U. Oops. Just like that, I forgot what I was doing. L, E. I think the U looks funny with a bounce. So we could try moving it over here to the D, and let's split it. Let's do one here and one here. The out of the D and out of the L. Let's try that. So bouncing up the S. Leave the C alone. Out of the H. Let's do another bounce down out of the D. Leave the U alone. Okay, we're going to bounce down again, coming out of the L. And then leave the E alone. So that's kind of fun. It feels more balanced to me. We've got a couple of different ups just by nature with the word schedule, and we've got a couple of downs. Let's try a word with an R. How about remote? Like remote control? So let's write it normally. That looks weird. Okay, but I've stayed in my bounds for the most part. So now if I bounce up the loop on the R, I don't want to bounce the E, and I don't really want to bounce anything closer to the T because it's already up. So we could do out of the M maybe, and just leave that one down. I could also try coming out of the R, but I think that's going to be too much for the R. We'll try it. We'll try it both ways. Okay, so let's first bounce the R up. Let's bounce out of the M. I could bounce out of the T. Yeah, see, it's unbalanced to me. It's got two bounces here and nothing up the front. So let's try bouncing the R in both directions. Now the other thing we could try doing is bouncing the first half of the M up and the second half down. Let's try that. I think I'm going to leave the end alone. That looks pretty good. That looks nice and balanced. I've got the R bounced up and the first part of the M bounced up, and then we just have the naturally tall T, the bottom of the R and the bottom of the M, and I just don't see anything that looks good down here. So there we go. That I'm not actually going to go ahead, you guys, and walk you through anything more here because I feel like I'm not going to be able to fast forward much of this first half. So just, there you go. Oh, actually, one other note I do want to mention. My friend Katie Baker of Baker Lane Studios a while back did some I have these linked. She on her website, she's also the one who does the glamour discs, by the way, if you've watched any of my move-in videos from the last few months. She did this special paper for us that's 3 lines long, and you can just download this and print it out as many times as you want. But here is a great canvas for you guys to write and work on your bouncing up and your bouncing down. So let's just keep on with remote a little bit more. I'm going to grab a different pen. Let's grab this one. And I'll show you how you can use the 3 lines to practice and work on your bounce lettering. So we're going to pretend this is our baseline now, not this one, right? We're going to work on the middle set of lines. Okay, so let's write remote. We're going to bounce up on the R, and we're going to bounce down on it. Leave the E alone. Okay, we're going to bounce up on the first half of the M and down on the second half of the M. Right? And so keeping the bounce on the R and the bounce on the M roughly the same height. I need to practice that. Same thing with the down on the R and the down on the M. Keeping them about midway, right? Don't go too crazy. You're not making descenders. Leave the O alone. Leave the T. I think I'm going to leave the rest of it alone. T, E. There we go. Remote. I like it. I like it. I like it. Let's try bouncing something with a descender. How about Monday? So first we're going to write Monday normally. Let me grab another pen. I'm going to go back to the Calligraph. All right, so we're going to use the middle again. Our core of our word is going to be in this middle set of lines. So just writing it normally. I am going to write it all lowercase, guys. I'm not going to throw a capital M in there. One thing at a time. So where can we bounce? Obviously the M, we've already played with that. We can bounce the N. We can bounce out of the D, out of the A. I don't think there's much we can do for the Y. So if we try to even things out, these two are pretty even, an up and a down, and I don't think adding a bounce right beside them is going to do us any good. So let's try, we could try bouncing the up on the M, or something we haven't tried yet is up on the O. We could come down on the M. Let's do like we did remote. Let's try bouncing up on the first half of the M, down on the second half of the M, and then we'll go from there. So we're going to bounce up, and then we're going to bounce down. Now we're going to leave the O alone. Now let's look at the N. I like that I could bounce down at the bottom of the N, and that kind of is in the middle of the word, so I think that'll look pretty good. I don't know if I need another bounce up anywhere, because I have one here and I have that tall part. So let's just bounce down coming out of the N. That looks okay. It looks pretty balanced. The other thing we can play with is bouncing the O. So you can, I think the O is like the R and the S. It's pretty conducive to coming up and being more grandiose on the O. So let's leave, I don't think we need an up here and an up here. So let's leave the top of the M alone and just bounce maybe down. Let's try that. Okay, so leaving the M alone at the beginning, but we're gonna bounce coming out of it. Now let's bounce the O. Let's try that. I'm gonna come bounce down out of the N. And leave the rest of it alone. That looks okay too. That looks okay too. I'm trying really hard to get my downs consistent. That one's a little too long, so that might be throwing me off, but that looks okay. And you can definitely bounce capital with capital letters. So if we write Monday just normally with a capital M, normal though. So again, focusing our core of our word on the center set of lines, capital M is going to be way up here. Okay, so that would be just a normal, straightforward Monday. Now if we wanted to bounce, again, we're not going to come up this high. So we could bounce the O, but I think it would be too much above the midline. It would throw the balance of the word off, if you know what I mean. I think about the only thing we could do would be playing with bouncing maybe here at the end of the M, at the end of the N. We have a Y, so we could try both or just one. I think if we do the N, it's going to put all the down weight of the word too far over. So let's try bouncing on both, and if it's too much, then we can just try bouncing out of the M. Okay, I'm going to bounce coming out of the M. And the N. And leave the rest alone. That's not bad. I don't think it's too much. Again though, I still need to work on keeping these even, because this one drops way down, almost like a descender, and this one does not. There we go. I like it. I don't think it's too much. So there you go. So I decided to go ahead and try the days of the week, and then I lost a section of that video. So I'm just going through and writing each day of the week normally, and then playing with some bouncing options. So I'm up to Friday. Okay, so there's Friday written pretty much normally. There really isn't a lot of room to bounce up on the R, but we could definitely bounce down coming out of it. And we could also bounce down coming out of the D in day. I've done that a couple different times. I don't think we need to bounce up any more than is already there though, so let's try that. So the R is going to stay normal at the beginning, but I'm going to bounce out of it. Let's bounce out of the D as well. See, I'm getting too much tried to squeeze in here. It's causing me to not be able to judge what I like as much. All right, let's try Saturday and Sunday, but I'm gonna skip a line so I have more room. So let's just write Saturday normal. So I don't think there's much opportunity to bounce down here at the beginning. We could try bouncing down out of the T. There's a lot of stuff going on above the midline already, so I don't know that I need to bounce up. But it would be nice to bounce down over here to kind of balance with the down of the Y. I guess, honestly, you guys, there's not a lot you can bounce on the word Saturday, in my opinion, without making it look just wonky. If I just add one single bounce here in this area, it's just gonna look like I didn't write the word correctly. I think you need more than one bounce. I think there's a judgment call there. Enough bounces for it to look purposely bounced and not like a mess up, but not so many that it starts to make it difficult to read the word. So looking at Saturday, I'm not sure that would be a good word to even try to bounce. I'll try it. Okay, we're gonna bounce coming out of the T. And I can go ahead and relax and bounce a little bit up on the R. I mean, I already do a little bit. So it's kind of like, with only one bounce there, does it look like my pen slipped? I don't know. My R's tend to come up a little bit above the line anyway because I just can't squeeze that all in. The only other thing I could do would be to make it really, really big so it almost looked like I was trying to be a capital or something, but I don't think that's gonna look very good, you guys. All right, let's analyze Sunday. So first thing I'm gonna do is write it normally. Okay, now let's look at where we could bounce it. Again, not much. I mean, I can always bounce up the N, but it's right beside the ascender D. And so I don't know about that. We can definitely bounce down on the U, but again, that's about it. And is it gonna look like Saturday and just look like my pen slipped? We'll try it. Okay, out of the U. Yeah, I think you gotta have more than one bounce, otherwise it just looks like your pen slipped, you guys. What's another word? How about homework? Let's write homework normally, all lowercase. Or housework. How about housework? So we already have an ascender here. We can make the O a little bigger, but it's right beside the H. We definitely could bounce the S. Let's bounce the S up. And we can bounce the O up because the R is right beside the K. And then what can we bounce down? We can bounce the U down. We can bounce the H down. Can't really bounce the W down. And I think the E, it's gonna change the core shape of the E. So let's just try that, okay. So we're gonna bounce down out of the H. Leave the O alone. We're gonna bounce, let's bounce down out of the U. And then we're gonna bounce the S up. Leave the E alone. We kind of have to leave the W alone. Let's bounce up on the O. And since we're going into a R, I need to come down kind of low for the R to look right. The other thing we could do is bounce down on the K, the tail of the K. So there we go, you guys. Bounce lettering 101 as best as I can explain it based on all the research I've done. It's been a great year. Thank you so much for making it all the way through with me. I'm gonna post another video later today with this same week, but at the beginning of my 2022 planner. So feel free to join me again. I definitely have some more letters that I want to work on. S's and R's and F's and some capitals as well. If you feel like hearing my voice again and just seeing what I'm up to, feel free to join us. If you're brand new, look for that other video today. I will start over with the very basics, working on muscle memory, light ups and heavy downs, and we will get you to this same point. You can get here one day, 1 week at a time. So I hope you like this video. If you do, please help me spread the word by linking any of my socials. I plaster this stuff all over it. And please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you.